Alright, man, peace. Brothers, I've touched on this sentiment in numerous videos pertaining to the sports world, especially the NBA and the NFL. That being that not only are the professional sports leagues of America meant to be showcases to display the talents of the greatest athletes on the planet, they're also narrative driven. They are TV shows. They are for entertainment. So you can't just have people running and jumping and sweating, so on and so forth. You have to create and concoct storylines to enrapture the people. The NBA especially is pretty much a reality show. It's a soap opera that's meant to reel people in. That's how they market it. That's why they try to link certain characteristics to particular players, whether it be that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are sensitive, or LeBron James is an attention whore, or Steph Curry is allegedly a family man, so on and so forth. Those are character archetypes that they want to imbue on certain players so that the NBA is almost like a kaleidoscope of different personalities and everyone is drawn to certain teams or certain players, so on and so forth. And basically, the NBA and the NFL commissioners are TV producers. Their job is to understand how to write certain prominent actors out of the script, how to move them on, and develop new talent. Adam Silver is even better at doing this than Roger Goodell is. But Roger Goodell still understands the concept, especially with how he handles Tom Brady and some of the other players, so on and so forth. The point being is this. Right now, they're struggling with the LeBron James storyline because they know that he still has some juice left in that orange. And they're going to have to figure out how to squeeze those last few drops of juice out before they get rid of him. And that time is going to come in the next 3 years or so. But before that happens, they want to orchestrate a major comeback for LeBron with the Lakers. There's no way in the world that they're just going to let LeBron float off into the sunset on that squad. What they've done is they've strategically placed David Griffin, the former general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers, into the infrastructure of the New Orleans Pelicans so that hopefully he'll be able to orchestrate a trade with the Lakers. Now, I'm sure that he's not going to be compelled to view the Lakers as his only trading partner. He might have to trade with someone else. But believe me, the Lakers are the number one option. There's no way in the world that you're going to tell me that it's just a coincidence that David Griffin, the former general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers, all of a sudden fills that spot with the Pelicans. And neither David Griffin nor the owner of the Pelicans have been told by anyone that we want to try to make this trade happen with the Lakers if possible. And if we do, we're going to make sure that the Pelicans get firmly compensated, a la the Cleveland Cavaliers back in 2010 when LeBron left. That's just how it works. You scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. Because the ratings have dissipated a bit, especially in the playoffs without LeBron James. So why would you allow someone who is such a galvanizing figure and also a polarizing figure to just sit at home in the playoffs? We already know LeBron is not as good as Jordan. He's never been as good as Jordan. He's never going to be as good as Jordan. But he's still a captivating figure. So they have to find a way to put him back in a prominent position the best way possible. So David Griffin has decided to expound on many of his future plans with the Pelicans and the potential trade of Anthony Davis. So of course they're going to talk about it and I want to chime in.
Hey, here's Griff.
This is the part where I tell you all that I tried really hard at deadline to get rid of Richard Jefferson. There were no first-round picks available to offload him.
First-round pick? No one would take me. Second round, whatever it is.
No. Maybe you didn't understand. I was offering.
You were offering first round.
I just ran out of.
For a first round pick. That's amazing.
My guy. That's my guy.
Oh yes, our next guest has spent time with both Richard Jefferson and Amin Elhassan, the new Pelicans Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations. Welcome, David Griffin, joining the Jump. We are thrilled that you're here. And by the way, can we show the picture of Amin? Young Amin.
Oh,
this is back when he worked with you, Griffin.
Look at that hairline. Oh.
We just
So he's thinner.
Right.
Yeah. He's thinner. He's in the process of working, and Todd Quinter is the other guy in that picture.
Yeah.
And it's nauseating. Todd's aged better than all of us.
I just like how you say Amin's in the process of working, like that was an accomplishment that had to be photographed and is not available to watch now.
Coffee for people at that.
Well, there aren't a lot of images of that relative
right, exactly.
to his time
That's what I mean.
So.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to catch that.
Richard just said I was getting coffee for people. Tell him what was actually happening.
He was also getting Splenda.
Yeah, so he was yelling at everybody about getting coffee for him. In fact, the true story is I was the one who would bring coffee up very often from Starbucks downstairs because in the culture Steve Kerr created, that servant leadership concept meant that I was waiting on Amin.
Oh, wow.
Wow, we might have to burn this tape also.
And I appreciate it. It was very delicious coffee. Thank you, Griff.
Amazing. Griff, I guess we should talk to you about the Pelicans, not just telling stories on these guys. I do want to say that in your introductory press conference, you expressed interest in keeping Anthony Davis. You made sort of this, you have to know you're either all in or all out.
Let me say this very quickly. David Griffin has to say that in the press conference, that we're going to try to keep Anthony Davis. That's an attempt to quell a lot of the growing antipathy between Anthony Davis and not just the fans in New Orleans, but the fans nationwide. I'm not quite sure if Anthony Davis understands how much he has alienated himself from many of the NBA viewers. And the NBA has to try to stem the tide on this, because that whole LeBron James situation, they created, when I say they, I'm talking about Rich Paul, LeBron, the Lakers, and even certain aspects of the Pelicans themselves. They created such a toxic atmosphere for both teams. They destroyed any chance that either one of those teams had to make the playoffs.
And my joke at the time was the man was wearing a "That's All Folks" t-shirt. It should tell you if he's all in or all out. But you are A, the optimist, and B, you are very convincing. You have pulled off all kinds of things in the past that people didn't expect.
Once again, Anthony Davis played with Drew Holiday, Mirotic before he was traded, Julius Randle, etc. When you compare his supporting cast to what Giannis Antetokounmpo is working with up in Milwaukee, winning 60 games, there's no way in the world that you're going to tell me that Anthony Davis is a leader on a squad or an alpha on an NBA championship level team. And maybe he knows that. Maybe that's why he demanded the trade to the Lakers, so that he can force LeBron James to be his leader. There are certain people like that who know that deep down they can't lead a fly to shit.
Do you think there's still a chance you could convince him to stay?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I think that shirt was probably foreshadowing of Space Jam 2 as much as anything else.
I agree.
But secondly, I look at the situation with very good optimism, and the reason is that I've got a very good working relationship with Rich Paul, and Richard knows this. We had an incredibly successful run together, and
right. But David Griffin, what are you really saying? If Rich Paul has demanded that his client be traded to a particular team, and you're saying that you have a great working relationship with Rich Paul, really what you're saying is that you're going to try to assist them in getting moved to the squad that they want to be moved to. Because Rich Paul's job is to act as an intermediary between his client and the team. At least allegedly that's his job. Even though we know that in order for him to have become the agent of Anthony Davis, they would have both have to have worked out behind the scenes how they're going to get Anthony Davis to the Lakers. It's not a coincidence that Rich Paul is working alongside LeBron James. LeBron James is on the Lakers, and now suddenly Anthony Davis wants to go to the Lakers. So there's certainly a conflict of interest there. So once again, for you to constantly be trying to talk about how you have a great working relationship with Rich Paul, what that means is that it's your job to help Anthony Davis get to the Lakers.
And because of that, there's mutual respect. I think there's going to be appreciation on his part for the fact that I would not have come here if Mrs. Benson and her ownership team weren't completely committed to winning. And
That's right, sir. And part of the commitment to winning is to make sure that you can remove any and all cancers and rebuild from the ground up. It's your job to find a new coach to replace that terrible medical staff, which you've already done. Good job with that. And also to find a way to get rid of Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis has burnt almost every bridge in New Orleans to the ground. The only way that he will be able to repair the issues that he's created along with Rich Paul between himself and the fan base in New Orleans is to come back next year, average 30, 15, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 50 wins, and get to the second round of the playoffs again next year. And that's not going to happen.
Very much are. And because of that, I think some of the concerns Anthony probably had, we're going to be able to alleviate. So I feel like there is reason to be optimistic that he's going to be open-minded to coming back. But the real question is, what does it look like? And can we sort of give each other what we really need and be the ultimate expression of greatness for one another? And I hope that we can, but it's certainly not something that we believe can't happen.
Griff, your optimism aside, you look at this job.
False optimism.
You have a star player who wanted to get traded. You don't have a whole lot of young players that are going to develop into something special. Not a whole lot of cap flexibility. What attracted you to this job?
He was placed there, Amin El Hassan. Good question, but he was placed there.
So I mentioned it already, but Mrs. Benson is the first thing, and
Yeah, right.
and the absolute clarity of focus she has on wanting to deliver a winner to this community.
Bullshit. Let's keep it real. Miss Benson was upset that Dell Demps was not able to quell a lot of the toxicity that was being built around Anthony Davis demanding the trade. She got rid of Dell Demps. She called up Adam Silver and told him, I need help finding a good GM to help me run this squad and get rid of this problem. Adam Silver or his people contacted David Griffin and put him in touch with quote-unquote Miss Benson. And those two got together and they commiserated on how they're going to clean up this entire situation. It's like the scene in Pulp Fiction after Samuel L. Jackson's character and John Travolta's character. Of course, they shoot the black dude in the back seat, and they need someone to help clean up this whole situation, and they contact Harvey Keitel. This is David Griffin's job. He's a Harvey Keitel here. He has to clean up this whole shit and bring the body to the garbage dump.
Was really meaningful to me. Frankly, the community in and of itself was really meaningful to me. You know, RJ saw what it's like when you deliver a championship in a smaller market that's been told they can't win something. There's an outpouring there that really changes the dynamic in an entire city. So to have the opportunity to come here with ownership that is invested in this process to the level that they had. You know, I said in the press conference I made some outrageous demands. They've already followed through on a lot of those. We're going to build an incredible staff here. We're going to do a lot of things that had not been done previously, and it's because Mrs. Benson is so committed. So I guess...
In other words, once again, just like John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson did in Pulp Fiction, whatever Harvey Keitel told them to do, they had to do it and follow it to the T. That's a part of the process of David Griffin being placed into their franchise as the GM. He already joined himself into that environment with the understanding that, quote-unquote, Mrs. Benson or Miss Benson was told that she had to follow all of his instructions to the letter.
I guess, Rachel, if there was one prevailing thing, that's the reason.
Okay, so you're adding staff. That's something you're telling us? Maybe beefing up, is it scouting? Or are you beefing up the front office?
We're certainly going to add... Yeah, we're certainly going to add infrastructure. I think there's really good bones there. They had some very good people here. I don't look at this as a situation where we have to come in and sweep everything away to the studs, but I think...
Just damn near. You are going to be utilizing at least certain components of scorched earth policy.
But I think what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we get all the right people on the bus. And if we do that, titles aside, if we get everybody in the right frame of mind and heading in the right direction, then we're going to be successful. And I think, fortunately, because we've been in the league as long as we have, and RJ hasn't completely ruined my reputation, we have the ability to land some very quality people. Yeah, give him time. I know, give him time.
Here's a question for you.
So, you know, with all the interest in Drew Holiday and having Julius Randle with the player option, what do you think, and obviously the Anthony Davis thing, which you touched on, what do you really feel like your team will look like, you know, this at the end of this free agency and at the end of this summer?
The main thing he needs to do is get rid of that damn trot-mouth coach, Alvin Gentry. Get rid of his ass. Alvin Gentry is a great assistant coach. He's not a head coach on a team that's trying to be a winner.
I think we're going to build a team, RJ, very much like we did in Cleveland in terms of building something that represents sort of the ethos of the city. We're going to be competing. We're competing to win. We're not coming at this as though we're rebuilding. So Anthony Davis aside, if he's with us, we're going to be building, obviously, with a little bit of a leg up, obviously.
If he's with you, the dude has not been with you for the last 5 months, man. What the hell are you talking about?
Obviously, with a player of that caliber, but if he's not with us, we're going to be building in such a way that we've got people that are all about this situation. And RJ's heard me say this many times, you're all the way in or you're all the way out.
Well, we already know what Anthony Davis is. We know that at the very best, he's halfway in, at the very best. So for you to make any type of ultimatum on him or compel him to take a side, we already know what side he's going to take. And brothers, all these people are actors. They have to be actors first. Acting is a part of their job description. They have to be able to go before a camera and convince other people of a certain sentiment, even if they know themselves that it's a complete red herring. For example, Anthony Davis said before the season that he was going to give the New Orleans Pelicans his best for the entire year. He believed that this was a chance for the Pelicans to advance on what they did the previous season. And then come to find out, In the summertime, before this year even started, he and his group had demanded a trade. So he's nothing but a damn actor.
It's also from a competitive standpoint.
That's why his ass will fit in so well in Space Jam.
From a chemistry and character standpoint, we want guys that are about the right things, and I envision that's what the team will look like. And I actually had the opportunity to visit with Drew today at the practice facility, and he's really excited about what we can do as well. And
that boy could play, Drew Holiday.
And I think we'll be very active in helping us build this.
Griff, you and I were talking about this a little bit last week about the idea that one of the people who will come knocking at your door for Anthony Davis is Danny Ainge. And this is someone who, frankly, has a lot of other GM's heads on his wall of guys that he is convinced.
Now, brothers, I'm trying to figure out if Danny Ainge gave this chick Rachel Nichols some rod and never called her back. Like, did he promise to give her a scoop if she gave him some ass and he reneged on the deal? Because every time she mentions him, she tells every other general manager in the NBA to not make any deals with him because he has so many scalps from other GMs on his wall that he beat in a trade. It's not her job to get on TV and tell other general managers in the NBA who to make deals with as opposed to who not to make deals with. You do what's best for your organization. And if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm contacting Adam Silver or one of the basketball execs at ESPN to let them know, look, this chick has the right to her opinion, but she does not have the right to try to influence other NBA franchises when it comes to who they should be making trades with or working out business deals with. What the hell's going on here?
Two very uneven trades. Kevin McHale, we know how that went. Billy King, we know how that went. Brian Colangelo, we know how that went. Kobe Altman, we saw how that went. You were joking to me back about your relationship with Ainge and the fact that you know him maybe better than some of those other guys. Can you please tell America how you first came into contact with Danny and the sort of relationship between the two of you?
Yeah, so this is something that's kind of funny, but I was Danny's video guy, was his assistant video guy actually, when Danny was the head coach in Phoenix. And he was a person I think that had a really big impact upon my ability to actually get into scouting in the first place, because he was giving me far more credit than I deserved for the players that I was, quote, finding on videotape. It was deck to deck back then, so it was a lot of work and it was a grind, and I think Danny appreciated the grind that I had and really was a huge part, I think, in me being able to move up and onward in the front office the way I did. He called me freak. He still calls me freak. We make fun of each other rather often. His nickname in our building was known to all as well, and I think ultimately when you get to the point where you know each other as well as we do, he's not going to pull much. He's not going to pull much over on me anyway. From that standpoint.
I mean, do you have to have, when you look at his track record, do you have to sort of think through holding him to a different standard than you would, or having a different mindset as you go into a trading conversation with him, or do you feel like it's just like anyone else in the league?
It's not David Griffin's job to be concerned about Danny Ainge potentially fleecing him in a trade. It's his job to make sure that he's assisting his team. If he's on point, he should be able to evaluate all of the assets that he's going to get back in a potential trade anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to some degree you're mindful of what his tact is, right? I mean, you're very mindful if you're doing this, right? You're very aware of what everyone's tact is.
Exactly.
And the negotiating tactics and ploys that somebody might utilize, you're going to be aware of that. Danny's not unique in that way that he's got a very specific style. What makes the situation with Danny unique is we have the kind of relationship where we can really call each other on all that nonsense and just sort of, this is what it looks like. And I think because we have that ability, it makes any conversation we would have along the way a fruitful one, and I really don't anticipate anything happening anytime in the near term, but I appreciate kind of the spirit of the question for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Richard's going to be asking you offline what that nickname was, or maybe on camera. I don't know. But we appreciate you joining us.
David Griffin picked up on what Rachel Nichols was doing also. Basically, she's calling every other GM in the NBA who considers making a deal with Danny Ainge an idiot. So he's like, I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I know how to do my job. I know how to speak to another general manager on the phone. I don't give a shit who he is, and be able to evaluate what I'm sending away as opposed to what I'm going to be bringing back to my franchise.
I'm sorry. It's far too many people I would have to kill. I'm sorry.
Thanks so much, Griff. I especially liked having you on with the two of these guys next to me. Wish me luck, because I have to be on for another segment with them. I don't know if I'm going to make it through. Wishing you luck with the Pelicans.
I apologize, Rachel.
I know.
I didn't have enough time, apparently, with them to do a better job.
I know.
To put them in the right space
Thank you. It's good.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, because now they're descending into a bunch of drivel. Point being is this. Expect David Griffin to do his best to try to complete that trade with the LA Lakers. But anyway, that's basically it on that, because now the conversation is starting to descend into nonsense and silly dribble. The point being is this. David Griffin was strategically placed into the New Orleans Pelicans franchise to make sure that he acts as the cleaner. He is proverbial Harvey Keitel from Pulp Fiction. That is who he is. And his job is to make sure that he can assist Anthony Davis in completing the strategy or the stratagem of joining up with LeBron James in LA. Of course, if he's unable to complete that deal, David Griffin has the permission to make the deal that's the best for the franchise. But I'm pretty sure that Adam Silver has let him know, we need to assist LeBron for these last 3 years. This is why you're there. You're able to work very well with Rich Paul. For whatever reason, Dell Demps does not seem to know how to work well with others, especially our more important assets, because once again, this is the entertainment industry. The sports world is the entertainment industry. When Denzel Washington wants something from a producer, he gets it. When LeBron James wants something from a producer, he gets it. That's the bottom line. That's why LeBron is in Hollywood, because he's an actor. Anthony Davis is an actor. David Griffin is an actor. Before anything else, before being an athlete or being an executive, they're actors. Their job is to make sure that they can appear before camera or in front of the camera and convince the audience that they're actually there to do something. Whether they're telling the truth or not, it's their job to convince you. Once the cameras shut down or shut off, they get to work on completing what their actual mission is. So expect Anthony Davis to end up in LA. It's not necessarily going to be something that is definitely going to happen, especially if another team blows them out of the water. When I say them, I'm talking about the Pelicans. But option number one is LA. So peace.